In the minds of many, a nuclear bomb is an amorphous concept lacking a clear definition. On one hand, it symbolizes devastating power. On the other, people often cite Hiroshima, where life thrived decades after the explosion, as an example. Worry not, we're here to clarify the situation and ponder what would happen if all the planet's bombs were detonated at once. Are scenarios from video games feasible in reality, or is the entire bomb threat mere propaganda? Let's find out here and now, right after you share in the comments whether you support or oppose nuclear weapons. Because twist it any way you like, there are far too many bombs on Earth. According to data from the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, there are 17,300 nuclear warheads on the planet. For context, the number of cities with a population exceeding 1 million barely surpasses 300. In Russia, 171 cities boast populations over 100,000. In the USA, around 300 cities. A bit of simple math suggests the existing arsenal could easily erase entire countries regardless of their size and population. Russia holds the largest stockpile with 8,500 warheads, followed closely by the USA with 7,700. The rest have mere remnants. France has 300, China 250, and tea enthusiasts, the UK, have 225. Nuclear weapons are possessed by a total of 9 countries. Some say this maintains a balance of power, while others vehemently oppose nuclear armament. Despite loud proclamations, no one has taken real steps to reduce their arsenal, though Wikipedia might suggest otherwise. Old unnecessary bombs are decommissioned, but generals are all too happy to publish reports that serve their interests. Trust should be placed only in independent organizations for the real figures. Speaking of arsenals, bombs vary by weight, delivery method, impact type, and lethal power. In short, there are munitions for every conceivable scenario, from submarines to planes, from cannons to missiles. The military utilizes them all, with lethal force tailored to specific targets. Scientists once pondered that bombs were insufficiently lethal to those outside the blast radius, since radiation takes time to affect, which isn't practical on the battlefield. Thus, neutron bombs were invented capable of delivering radiation 13 times above the lethal dose. Quite chilling, isn't it? Let's not get bogged down in classifying this rubbish and move on to the facts. Let's go back to 1945 and recall the first use of this horrifying weapon in combat conditions. Well, not quite combat, since the Americans dropped 2 bombs on civilian cities. The pretext was Hiroshima's military port and Nagasaki's weapon production facilities, but in reality they aimed for the maximum psychological impact, betting that the city's geography would amplify the explosion's effects. They conveniently forgot about nearly 500,000 ordinary residents in both cities. For those who point to photos of modern, technologically advanced Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it's not the bomb's weakness, but the genius and character of the Japanese, who rebuilt everything from scratch, even below the ruins. In fact, these are entirely new cities retaining only their names. Photos of the landscapes before and after the explosions speak louder than 1,000 words. Cities turned to dust, as did every single person within a mile of the blasts. Remember, we mentioned nearly 500,000 people before the bombings? According to official data, half of them perished, and the majority of survivors suffered from radiation sickness for the rest of their lives. Look up what this entails, and you'll understand that everyone became a victim. And just for a moment, consider that the destructive power of those bombs is far from what's available today. Modern bombs are almost 3,000 times stronger. The Tsar Bomba entered into the Guinness World Records, lifted a mushroom cloud 41 miles high, practically into space. The fireball it created was 15,000 feet in diameter, a fifth of St. Petersburg, and that's just the fireball. The bomb's light emission could cause third-degree burns up to 62 miles away, and the blast was felt over 600 miles away. Just imagine the area of total destruction this bomb would cause if superimposed on a map of Paris. Total is not just a figure of speech. It implies that nothing alive would remain. Of course, not all modern bombs are this powerful, but there are tens of thousands of them. It's time time to address the main question. What would happen if they were all detonated? The tragedy lies in the politicization of this dilemma, leading to conflicting opinions across the internet. Some argue that hundreds of missiles are needed to revert to medieval times, while others believe that detonating 50,000 bombs would be inconsequential. Proponents of nuclear weapons disseminate their safe narrative, opposed by the equally vehement opposition. Who's correct? The answer lies in common sense, empirical data on diseases among populations living near nuclear test sites, simple math, and the existence of 5,000 cities worldwide with populations exceeding 100,000, less than a third of the current nuclear arsenal. Even without considering environmental damage, this could mean the loss of half the world's population. Seeking specifics, if we accept the official stats, the average warhead has a yield of about 200 kilotons. The catastrophic Krakatoa eruption had the equivalent of 200 megatons. Multiplying our 200 kiloton yield by 15-20,000 warheads results in an energy release 15-20 times greater. The relatively remote Krakatoa eruption split an island, triggered a 118-foot tsunami, and its ash cloud circled the globe several times over years, showing the profound, enduring impact even one volcanic event can have, let alone thousands of nuclear explosions. Let's pause for a moment to grasp the potential devastation of nuclear bombs. Research indicates that detonating just 100 warheads could severely damage half of the Earth's ozone layer. Imagine amplifying that number by 15. The result? A staggering increase in cancer rates worldwide and a significant shift in temperatures. This feared nuclear winter, often dismissed as mere propaganda, could indeed materialize, plunging us into a medieval-like existence marked by severe cold and famine. Yet humans are resilient, much like cockroaches. The planet won't veer off its orbit or split apart, but the closest predictions to the aftermath of a large-scale nuclear war come from game developers. Half of the global population could be decimated, with the survivors grappling with cancer and a dire scarcity of food. This, combined with catastrophic damage to infrastructure, technology, and production, paints a dystopian picture reminiscent of the Stalker universe covering most of the planet. It's disheartening to note that the most common online queries about nuclear weapons pertain to specific countries or the arsenal as a whole. Despite millennia of progress, wars, and bloodshed, humanity hasn't learned much. We continue to draw arbitrary borders and are willing to kill simply because someone was born elsewhere. True change won't come until we recognize that we're much closer to each other than politicians would have us believe. Until then, we can only speculate about the scale of an apocalypse not triggered by external forces, as we regress to primitivism, viewing each other with suspicion and hostility. The real tragedy lies in the lack of a sensible answer to why.